Today's webinar is titled How to Roll Out the Right Enrollment Option. And thanks again for taking your time. Now, over the last few months, maybe even almost half a year now, there's been some changes to both the process from Apple and some enhancements in our Jamf portfolio. And so, without further ado, let's dive in. My name is Danny Porter. I'm a mobility evangelist here at Jamf. It's a fun title to say. I get to think about mobile strategies for Jamf, partnering with app solutions and resellers and telecommunication companies and the like as we seek to help all of our organizations and all future organizations succeed with Apple. To frame up our time today, share our agenda, talking about first, let's talk about that device enrollment options. What are the terminologies that we're working with now? How have they changed? And what does that mean for your organization? Then we'll move on to how it might impact your school, your company, your employees. What benefits do the different enrollment options provide? And then we'll talk about maybe some things to consider as you plan your enrollment strategy. Maybe you're rolling out Apple devices for the first time. Maybe you're rolling them out for the 10th year in a row. And so just continuing to help you be successful with your Apple devices in your organization. Now, some of you joining today might be new to Jamf. And so we'll just take a few minutes to share a little bit about who we are, why we do what we do, and then some other information that might be helpful for you and your organization as well. And for those of you who are current customers, thank you so much again for taking time out of your day to join us for this webinar. And we have added other products to our portfolio. And so it might also be helpful to take advantage of the whole product experience with Jamf. And I hope that you see how this whole webinar might really truly enhance your experience. First and foremost, Jamf, we're a company that helps organizations succeed with Apple. That's our passion, that's our purpose, that's why we do what we do every single day, and why we have the products and partnerships that we do as a company. Since our founding almost 18 years ago, Jamf has grown from solving market problems with a single product, Casper Suite, for some of you who might know that, to bringing a full portfolio of products to bear. Today, Jamf helps more than 35,000 organizations manage more than 15 million Apple devices, connecting them to identity and account services, and protecting computers as they power productivity all around the world. Jamf Pro and Jamf is a portfolio of enterprise-grade solutions ready to help you tackle authentication, account management, and endpoint protection challenges in your ecosystem. And underpinning all of your experience with Jamf is Jamf Nation, the world's largest community of Apple administrators. You have more than 100,000 of your fellow admins on the site ready to help you connect, to learn, and to grow. To go quickly over just a couple of these other products for some of you who might not be aware, Jamf Connect at the top there delivers streamlined Mac authentication and identity management. It leverages a single cloud identity on any Apple device to gain immediate access to the resources you and your students and your employees need. Jamf offers the most comprehensive portfolio of Apple management products in the market. Jamf now helps small and growing businesses manage and schools their devices, while Jamf School also helps educators spend less time managing technology and more time investing in their classrooms. And Jamf Pro is the gold standard in Apple management and really helps the largest and some of the most successful companies on the planet oversee and empower their team with their Apple ecosystem. Our newest product to the portfolio, Jamf Protect, is an endpoint security solution purpose-built for Mac that gives enterprise security teams unprecedented visibility into their entire fleet of macOS devices. With customized telemetry and on-device detections, Jamf Protect extends Apple's security and privacy model while upholding the Apple user experience. And so that's a quick overview of our products. and to just share a little bit of how far this reaches out across many different industries, across many different schools globally. I'm really just excited that we have a part to play in any organization. And if you're trying to figure out, hey, does Jamf fit into what we do? Here's just a couple things that other companies have found that, yes, Jamf has helped them be successful with Apple. As well as those of you who are joining within education, we're just excited that we get to empower teachers and students by using Apple devices in the classroom, really helping everyone engage in the level of technology and in the way that they want to, in a really simple and easy way. Now, Jamf has been around for a while, and something that we continue to execute on as a company is our promise to you, to our customers, to our partners, is our day zero support. It really continues to set us apart in the industry, as since 2012, we have continually produced all of the software updates that Apple has released through our Jamf portfolio. So that way you as a customer have all the tools ready for your enterprise at your fingertips the moment they're available. So when these different operating systems were deployed, Jamf already came equipped with those tools so that as an administrator, you could empower your team with those functionalities as well. And so with that, that's just a quick snapshot of Jamf, of our company. If you have questions about some of our other products, or maybe how does Jamf Connect really help with identity and authentication, or you're curious more about Jamf Protect, please reach out. We'd love to work with you, share with you a demo, and help you understand how that might even help you. Some of those products, especially even Jamf Connect, can really enhance the device enrollment of your Mac devices. And so whether you are enrolling Macs in your organization, or iPads, iPhones, or even Apple TVs, our goal is to make it as easy as possible. Now, there are some nuances to the enrollment methods, especially as we get to our iOS and iPadOS devices, which is why we're here today. So let's go back, before we go forward, let's go back and talk about something that happened in June of 2019 in WWDC. A lot of great announcements, a lot of great functionality. But when it comes to enrollment, there were some updates to the terminology and even what's possible. And this just is a quick highlight of what's relevant to our conversation today. Now, user-initiated enrollment, coming from Apple Business Manager, it ultimately is now known as device enrollment. So as we're talking about that level, or that choice as a company, device enrollment used to be called user-initiated enrollment. And then BYOD is such a common term, but in the sense of enrollment, and as we continue to align with Apple's strategy, we're going to call that user enrollment today. So user enrollment was previously known as BYOD, or bring your own device, as well as device enrollment was previously known as user-initiated enrollment. Now, I also put up on the screen, as you can see, custom setup assistant screens. What a great enhancement to empower your users with a stress-free access to their device. Maybe even something that's welcoming, that's custom to your organization. What a cool opportunity. So we'll get into that maybe more near the end, so that way you can see what's possible with customizing the enrollment for device enrollment devices. Now, within device enrollment, we'll just think through a couple scenarios, or maybe even just one, where a new employee receives a device for their job. Maybe you have a choice program at your company, letting them choose whether they'd like to use a Mac or not. And then this would be a great experience for them, where they could open up the box, as you can see on the screen, just open up the shrink wrap, power on the device, and there is no step 3, really providing a zero-touch deployment. This is empowered by Apple's tool within Apple Business Manager and Apple School Manager. So then the moment it turns on, it's ready to go. And as I mentioned earlier, the user could have a custom setup assistant where you as an admin are configuring welcome screens, or maybe user agreements, etc. And then the end user can personalize their device, whether they're putting their own personal Apple ID on that device, restoring from a backup, etc. Maybe it's a refresh. This is where device enrollment can really come in handy. User enrollment is, think about that the user is bringing their own device into your environment, and then they're choosing to enroll, right? A device enrollment is the device is doing it all for the user. The user is technically not doing anything. For a user enrollment, the user is maybe going to a website, clicking on a link, and then choosing to have the organization overlay their device with a configuration profile, with a management profile, etc. So that way, the user can have access to company-owned assets and make sure that there's security. Now, some of you see on there Managed Apple IDs for schools and educators on this call. That's actually not a new functionality, right? Managed Apple IDs have been a part of your environments for years, where this was just rolled out brand new for commercial customers this last fall. And so it's just a great opportunity for you to streamline Apple ID creation within Apple Business Manager. We'll get into that here in a minute. But some of you might even be saying, we already manage our Apple IDs. We're creating them for our users with our business emails, and I'm keeping track of all passwords and birthdays and all the 3 security questions on an Excel spreadsheet. Maybe not those on the call, but for those of you who know your colleagues and other customers are. And so what a simple way for a user to actually put on a second Apple ID. And I'll show you an example of that, where then they can get access to business information or work with the iWork collaboration tools within Pages and Numbers and Keynote. So we'll talk about that, but that's where user enrollment can really come in handy. And that's really where we'll center around with user enrollment today. Now, I want to touch on quickly automated device enrollment. This isn't necessarily a different enrollment option. It's more or less an enhancement of device enrollment with it being automated in a sense, where the user plugs in a company-owned device. It's tethered to a Mac, and then there's a program on the Mac that runs Apple Provisioning Utility and can streamline the setup of a device. Now, that includes things like language, region, setup manually, connecting to Wi-Fi, and then it receives the profile from Jamf and then can continue on with the rest of the setup. It's a really great tool that can be used for shift workers. If you have shift workers in your organization, shared device use cases, maybe students in a library needing to automate the process of resetting it. Maybe an iPad's being checked out, and then when it's checked back in, a computer is automating the process of resetting everything and getting it back to and ready for the next student or employee. You might also have a need where there's no Apple IDs required, right? And of course you have that possibility. And so this is just a really great tool for you to use in the case of automated device enrollment. So with that, let's talk through how some of these options can impact your organization and things that we can consider. So enrollment journey. Right? All of our organizations and students, we have different experiences that we want to create. It can be a choose your own adventure sort of world. Lots of combinations because your organization might have different people with different needs, as well as different privileges. Some might get to bring in their own iPhones and iPads and need to take advantage of user enrollment, while others might get issued a company-owned device and the company might have device enrollment initiated. Or some of us on the call, we might have both. And so let's talk through what that journey could look like for every scenario. And first and foremost, we'll talk about the Mac. But I want to take a pause. There was a question around claiming an Apple ID account for the user. Create the business domain to transform it on a managed Apple ID. That's a really great question. Can we take one that we've already created with business emails and transform it into a managed Apple ID with Apple Business Manager? At the moment, I'm not sure if that's actually possible yet. I've heard of things that's possible, maybe in the future, but I'm not actually quite sure. So, Scott, maybe we can just make sure we put that down and we return some more information. A lot of that would be on their support page at business.apple.com. So, I've heard that maybe that's possible in the future. Not quite sure if it's there yet. Thanks for asking that. So when we're thinking about enrollment journey, thinking about going forward, first let's talk about what a device enrollment option might be for the Mac. Now, onboarding can sometimes be a stressful experience, let alone a new job, but maybe a new computer, and they don't want to mess anything up. But there's no better way to streamline the onboarding and welcome a new user to their new device than with the enrollment customization, which is what you see right in front of you. They're setting up the device. This is device enrollment. In the background, Jamf is beginning to configure the device. So instead of just watching a spinning wheel, the user is actually engaging with your company and engaging with information that's relevant to them and their needs. In Jamf Pro 1017, we were adding, and we did add the support for Markdown, meaning that admins like yourself can build richer and more engaging enrollment screens than ever. With Markdown support, you can embed videos, pictures, GIFs, and text into multiple pre-staged panes. Maybe you are doing a one-to-one Mac program in your school, and so all the students are getting their Mac before the first day of school next year. What a great way to welcome them with a teacher video or an engaging video of why you work at your company or something of that nature, so that while stuff is running in the background, they continue to be inspired and welcomed into the school or the organization that they now work for. Now, user enrollment on the Mac would maybe look something like this. Maybe they bring in their own Mac, or as a student or as an employee. Maybe you actually have been using Macs for a long time, and so now you're looking at how do we manage these devices better? Well, that's where user enrollment would come in, right? You'd send out an email and send a link out, say, hey, click on this link, go to this website, so that way we can manage those devices. For Macs, we can even help you automate that process, but it really allows the user to accept that profile. Maybe they go to that website, select that device, their role within the organization, and then they enroll the Mac and then get those tools, security policies installed, etc., right on that device, all user-driven, really providing a really slick and great experience. Now, which one of these experiences might be better for your organization? Like, let's consider why maybe a company might choose device enrollment. Maybe right out of the box, you're doing a new enrollment. So you want these devices to be enrolled, managed out of the box. You have a lot of work to do as an admin. So why not just automate the process of an account setup? Enrollment customization is available through that process, as well as something that's non-removable, right? You don't want your company-owned devices to no longer be managed. So that might also be helpful for you. Then there's user enrollment, where maybe a user or a student is bringing in their device to the organization. We want to make sure that we divide personal from business information, not lock down their personal device, but just keep business information separate from personal. That way, help with that work-life balance. But we know that also making sure we can apply the right restrictions to that device for security policies and meet everyone's needs within the organization. It's also removable by an employee or by the company. And why would we want that? Well, if it's a user's device that they own, you can help allow them to get the information that they want, but then when they don't want their device managed any longer, they can easily remove it. Maybe they leave the organization, or they transfer schools, or something of that nature happens. Well, then we want to empower the end user to remove themselves from management, as well as if they get to be a part of management, maybe we want to make sure, hey, if you're going to access company email, you also must have a passcode requirement, which means once the profile installs, it will say you need a passcode, and then therefore they can get company email. So really easy way to empower your users by saying, hey, maybe if you don't want management, great, then you don't get contacted, company email, etc. Right? There's some functionality that you can really place in there for that. Let's talk about for the iOS and iPadOS experience. You've seen these screens probably hundreds of times if you're setting up devices. And again, really providing a device enrollment experience where you're customizing the enrollment, welcoming people in, maybe accepted usage policies, figuring out how to set up email. Oh, by the way, we'll do it for you with Jamf. and then maybe some other business information as well. That just helps them feel more at ease through the setup of their device. Maybe then they can restore from an iCloud backup or get access to their device, get the apps that they need. If you're in a shift worker sense, maybe you want to use Jamf Setup and Jamf Reset to help customize shared use environments in your organization. Or for schools, for students, as they are setting up their device, then they get to the apps and get Apple Classroom and are connected to the Apple TV in their room or something of that nature, right? Everything is configured, all zero touch. And who doesn't like to open up a personal device or a business device that they're going to use personally at work and at home and unwrap and do the shrink wrap, right? Like as IT admins, I think we've all probably opened up enough devices. For user enrollment, this is a way that maybe you have a bring your own device policy for telecom and other solutions, or hey, I just want to use my iPhone at work. I like to have business email on my iPhone. So great, user enrollment. This is where that comes in. They go to a website, they choose the profile or the role that they need. It then installs a profile like you see on this screen. And it's completely transparent. So then the end user knows what's going on in the organization and what the organization is doing to their device. Passcode restrictions, VPN settings, device identities, Wi-Fi certificates, etc. Everything's transparent, and as you can see, it's also removable. Now, this screen is exactly the same as before. There's a lot of considerations, and some of these are just the highlights of what we might think through. But rather, the idea than talking about removable, like why would we not want them to be removable, right? Why would we not want something to be removed from management? Well, if it's a company-owned device, you want full restrictions. You want supervision of that device. And so just a really great way for you to make sure that your devices are always under management, even if the device somehow gets factory reset and travels somewhere or gets stolen, etc. Every time it boots up, it will go back into management because of Apple Business Manager and that. A question came in, how can I customize the enrollment experience as just shown with DEP enrollment? Now, DEP was upgraded to Apple Business Manager, so don't want that to get confusing either, or Apple School Manager. It's all the same thing. So within DEP, Apple Business Manager, Apple School Manager, etc. So hopefully that clarifies that. The other part is you can do that all in Jamf Pro. Under settings, and we do have some help articles about how to do that. If you want to search on our website, custom setup screens or custom setup assistant, we can actually walk you through the coding of that, even some quick tips on the markdown functionality within Jamf Pro. So look that up. It's really great. You assign it to a pre-stage and it just fits right within that policy. Now, for Apple TVs, yes, there is even device enrollment options for Apple TVs. We can easily and simply enroll those devices coming in. And what's great is we can do that automated device enrollment with Apple TVs. So think about this in a school setting, putting Apple TVs, connecting them to the projectors, so that way you can, or a TV or whatever your school is using, where once the device is connected to the Ethernet cable and it's turned on, Jamf takes care of the rest. We can auto skip through all the setup assistance. It's non-removable, and you can even configure specific devices to connect to specific Apple TVs. In the instance of healthcare and working with hospitals, patients are given an iPad in their room that's already configured to an Apple TV to then project on videos or creating that experience, or projecting even who's taking care of them, and maybe some things from my chart bedside. So that way, everyone in the room can see the same information. And you're not too worried about, a patient projecting something on a room down the street, or a student projecting their keynote on another teacher in another classroom, etc. So really great tool that we can help you out with as well. If you had more questions about the enrollment experience, as just shown in those videos, let me know, but that customization is available. The walkthroughs, the blogs, etc., are all on our website, and so want to make sure that I did answer your question as well. So with the time left that we have, wanted to help maybe plan, strategize around things to consider with your enrollment strategy, and maybe some questions to ask that might be helpful for your organization. Right? Because we're all in different situations. We might be moving from non-management to management, one MDM to another, coming over to JF, or trying to figure out what can we do as an organization. So thinking through, do I want to have this device be used for personal use, right? When we think about Apple IDs, if an employee is leaving your organization, their main Apple ID shouldn't be the business email, because now their personal Apple ID information is all tied to a business email, and they'll never have access to that again. So thinking through that, maybe we use that for managed Apple IDs and let them use it for personal. What sort of restrictions do we want to apply? There's different types of rules where, as a user enrolling, the device is not what's called supervised, which we'll get into, which also means you don't have a lot of restrictions that you can apply. So depending upon your industry, maybe you need a higher level of restrictions that you need to apply to the device. What's the experience you want to create for your students? Thinking through the enrollment experience again. What security policies are needed, and then ultimately, what is supervision important? Now, supervision is a switch within your iOS, iPadOS, and even new macOS devices that says the device is corporately owned. And when that switch is turned on, when that's there, we have the ability to really manage the device, really lock it down, and provide some really great tools, or even empower through apps without Apple IDs, etc. But in a non-supervised device, what can you do? So with that, we want to make sure that the device is separated from personal and business. And that's where Managed Open In can come in. Really divides the device between personal and between business. And then make sure that business PDFs from emails can't go on personal iCloud accounts, right? So personal iCloud accounts might be connected to somebody's personal iMac at home that their 3-year-old can access. So maybe we don't want to make sure that business, sensitive information is on, a device that maybe a 3-year-old might access. So things to consider there. Usually these devices are user enrolled. So giving them access to email, to contacts, calendars, VPN configuration, web clips, which are like shortcuts to URLs on the web, just easily providing that to them. And then even Apple's new configuration for single sign-on extensions, that's all available with user-enrolled devices. So really streamlining, helping your users create a great experience when they're on their personal device. Again, it's all tied to the enrollment. So then when the admin, remove the device, they no longer have access to that. Or if the user says, hey, I don't want this for, I'm going to upgrade, or I'm not using this in business anymore, it's personal, they can remove it as well. So moving on through that process, wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about why Managed Apple IDs. And I'm really actually intrigued by your question around, hey, can we do that transfer over? So I'm really glad we can look into that. So to those of you on the call that haven't heard of that, the idea is, can we put 2 Apple IDs on one device? And you can. You create them within Apple Business Manager, and they can even be federated within Microsoft Azure AD. So you authenticate those 2 products together, and we can automate creating all these Apple IDs for you and empower your users to get access to shared things through contacts and calendars and reminders. And it works really great with iWork collaboration, so that if you have groups or teams of people using Pages, everyone can share together, and it's not a personal Apple ID, it's a business one, as well as keynotes or numbers, spreadsheets, etc. Now for schools and educators on the call, you know about Managed Apple IDs, but there's some really great tools if you're not using them. 200 gigabytes of free iCloud storage for your students to share amongst each other, shared iPad, iCloud Drive, Photos, Safari, and Notes, and all those great iWork collaboration and tools. And it's available with Device Enrollment or User Enrollment. So really great tools that you can use around Managed Apple IDs within the organization. And you can see even on the screenshot here that it says only your main account can be used. So this is a commercial experience that you see on the screen, where education, there'd be a lot more options as well. And then we're continuing to enhance the enrollment options and experience that we're all having. And so with 1019 that was just released last week, there are some new ways that packages are being delivered through Jamf during the setup assistant. Now, when you're putting out a PKG file with Jamf, in the past, it was kind of limited to where it could come from or how many. But with Jamf Pro 1019, we're allowing admins to leverage any compatible HTTPS distribution point for delivery. And this means that many more of our customers and yourselves can take advantage of enrollment packages regardless of the Jamf Pro server and distribution environment. You can also deploy multiple packages during enrollment for the first time. So instead of one, now we can give you a plethora of options as you enroll and empower your users. So with that, as a quick recap, talked through the enrollment options that are available, maybe understanding some of the terminology, getting aligned around what are we going to call these different tools, and understand where the new documentation is coming out and what we're talking through. Impact and benefits to you and your company, and then planning your enrollment strategy and thinking through what we can and can't do, and maybe what you do and do not want to do. If you have additional questions or need more resources, of course, we have additional professional services, trainings, and then, of course, support. And that's who I'll be reaching out to learn more a little bit about how we can empower you to create that experience. Additional Apple programs and services, continuing to integrate within all the great tools with Apple. Third-party integrations, really helping enhance and empower the experience. And then we all use more programs, right? So what is our marketplace and how can we provide you tools to integrate? And these are partners that we've worked with to develop APIs with and help extend the experience from a developer perspective and yourself to just have a great experience. And then lastly, the last piece is Jamf Nation, right? If you're new to Jamf or you've been to Jamf a long time, check out Jamf Nation. It's free to use, and we'd love you to get your questions answered there from other admins like yourself solving the same problems globally. There's over 100,000 Apple admins, and they're all discussing together the best practices to help you get the resources you need. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for engaging. I hope this is helpful. Again, we will email you the recording when it's ready. And we look forward to having you again in future webinars. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Take care.